Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 27th episode of the BadMotoGP-Show, I think. But we're here to do our little season preview. We did it last year, and we were right on some points. We were wrong on some points, and we're here to do it again. And Keelan is back after a long time, a long winter break. So thank you very much for joining me. And yeah, let's jump right into it with our pick for the MotoGP World Champion. Obviously, a lot has changed with the sprint races and all of this stuff. But what do you think? Who will win the MotoGP World Championship?
First of all, hello everybody. We are back and we are live for 2023. Bad MotoGP Show is back. I am back from hibernation, Leo. I've come back out of my cave, not like Osama bin Laden, but I am back. Good to be back with everybody. Good to be back with you, my friend. And I'm very excited for this season. We got a lot of stuff coming up. Let's just say that. Anyway,
Yes.
straight into the picks. Last year, some of them made me look like Rain Man as a genius. Some of them made me look an idiot. That's the way it works sometimes. But I'm back to be better than last year. And like you said, we're going to kick it off with the 2023 MotoGP World Champion. I'm going to start this off with quite an interesting pick. I think it's going to be Enea Bastianini, and I'm going to tell you why. I think Pecco Bagnaia is many people's favourite to be champion, and with good reason. My man had a phenomenal season last year. Wiped the floor with nearly everybody, wiped the floor with Yamaha for certain. Not that that's difficult, but he did it anyway. I think with Enea Bastianini, the dynamic has changed with Ducati. It's no longer the fact that it's no longer the way that it's a clear number one and number two in Ducati. There's now two number ones. And I think Enea Bastianini is going to push Pecco Bagnaia really, really hard this year. I think he was phenomenal last year on the Grassini Ducati, a year old Ducati. And I think if you're looking at him with 2023 machinery, factory support, I think you're looking at the next world champion. So for me, Enea Bastianini is going to take the 2023 MotoGP World title.
I have several issues with that
Of course you
because
do.
because my pick is Pecco, and I think realistically it's between those two.
Yeah.
And Fabio has a shot, of course, because he's in my opinion still the best rider on the grid, but his bike isn't up to the task to win a championship, I believe. And maybe if something really goes wrong at Ducati, Fabio has a shot, but I don't really see it. I see uh, Enea and Pecco battling it out. And to me, I think Pecco has still the edge because he has the confidence of just winning a world title. He made a lot of mistakes last year and in 2021, and I believe he learned from it. And I also believe that the 23 Ducati is suited a little bit better around Pecco than it's on Enea Bastianini. And he even said that the bike is molded around him more, which is a positive if you're Pecco Bagnaia. And whatever this means, we don't know, obviously, because we don't have a flying idea of what the fuck is going on, anyways. So, I think this is a reason why Pecco will have the edge. And also, the sprint races are a big part because Enea Bastianini obviously is very, very good at racing. But he is usually better in the second half of the season. Maybe he can adapt and bring it out from the beginning. Of course, he can. But right now, where we don't have any actual data on what the fuck is going on during a sprint race, I would assume that Pecco is better at sprint racing than Enea is. And Pecco isn't bad at the main races either. So I think it's in the main races, it's basically a coin flip between those two.
Mm-hmm.
Those two can win every race, and those two can do stupid shit in every race. But I think the sprint races will give Pecco the edge over the season because it's like 300 points or whatever. So yeah, I think they will battle it out, but I think Pecco will do it for the reasons I just laid out.
Yeah, look, that's a completely fair point, and I'm not going to sit here and argue the reigning world champion's credentials. He's the world champion for a very good reason. He's the best rider in the world, if you go on that. I just think, like you said, and you make a very good point, Leo. I think it's very clearly a coin flip between Bastianini and Bagnaia. I just think if anybody in the grid could potentially push Bagnaia to the limit and pip him, I think it would be Enea Bastianini. And I like an underdog story, so I'm going to pick Enea Bastianini. I think many people will be on your side in this and pick Pecco Bagnaia, but you know what? I like a challenge, so I'm going to go Enea Bastianini, and I'm either going to look like a genius or I'm going to look like an idiot, but I look forward to finding out.
I think that Enea Bastianini showed last year that he's very capable of pushing Pecco Bagnaia, and I think there's a massive, massive potential for conflict, and there's a massive potential for an upset and a shift of power if Pecco allows Enea to fuck with his head. But
Yeah,
if
I
he
agree.
doesn't, if Pecco is able to take a second place if he needs to, like even an eighth place or whatever, if he needs to, he will be fine over the course of the season, I believe.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I think with Ducati, we kind of have the potential for another Rossi Lorenzo situation in terms of two very volatile teammates who are both one and two on the grid. And I think, like you said, it really comes down to who can be the more pragmatic rider, who can be the more cold and calculated rider. Because we've seen with Pecco Bagnaia in the past that he has the potential to be unable to accept a lesser position but live to fight another day. Whereas I think we've seen with Enea Bastianini that there can be a little bit more of a willingness to take a second place, a third place, a fourth place in order to pick up the points. So I think that dynamic will be very interesting to see as we go throughout the season. But like you said, at the end of the day, we don't have any of the data. We don't know what's going to happen. I think ultimately that's what it will come down to, but I'm intrigued to see who will master that.
Yeah. And when you look at Enea Bastianini's development curve, it's very rapid. He came into MotoGP in 2021 on the Avincia Ducati, scored 2 podiums, went on to win a couple races last year. And if this development curve continues, everybody is in serious trouble.
Oh, yeah.
But I still think that Pecco right now still has the edge. And if Enea can qualify as consistently on the front row as Pecco can, if Enea can be as dominant from the beginning of the race as Pecco can be, and then add on those benefits he has with a great late race pace, then Pecco's in serious trouble. But I don't see it yet.
Do you think it's maybe a little too soon for Bastianini?
No, I don't think it's too soon. I think that he will have some issues at the beginning of the season, being getting comfortable with the sprint races, being able to consistently qualify on the front row, and I believe Pecco will pull ahead at the beginning, and Enea will close the gap towards the end to him, but I don't think it will be enough to overthrow him unless Pecco lets him fuck with his mind and crash out. And because this you can't allow, if you're in a championship fight, you can't allow yourself to crash out. It was very, very odd that somebody won the championship after crashing out 5 times. It usually doesn't happen, and I don't think it will happen this year because Enea will be too good if Pecco doesn't watch carefully.
I definitely agree with that. I think Bastianini has absolutely got the potential and the talent to capitalize if those mistakes do materialize and come about. But whether they come about, that's what we'll have to see.
Yeah. And we spent now 10 minutes discussing the MotoGP World Champion, and I believe we will spend 10 seconds discussing the Moto2 World Champion, which is obviously Pedro Acosta. And in my mind, there is no doubt that he will win the title, except something like an injury happens or whatever. But if everything goes to plan, Pedro will be unbeatable.
Yeah, unless Pedro Acosta suffers a horrific injury or he breaks his leg or something like this, I don't see what stops him winning the world title this year. I thought he was brilliant last year with how because Moto 2 is a notoriously difficult class to adapt to, and he took to it really, really well. Quite frankly, like you've said, like what I've said, barring a hammer from the gods, I don't see what stops him from winning the title this year. Lord Pedro continues the origin story and wins the Moto 2 world title.
Yeah, he's on the best bike on the grid, obviously, the Kalex. He's in the best team on the grid, Red Bull KTM Ayo. And he's with the team for his third season now. So he knows the structure, the team knows him. Everything is basically the same as last year. He can develop and um, use those advantages over Albert Arenas, who I believe is his biggest rival. Also, Alonso Lopez has a huge say in who will win the world championship, but over the course of the season, I don't trust the speed up to be as good as the Kalex, and I don't trust the speed up team to be as good as Red Bull KTM Ayo. And also in Valencia, I've got a feeling that when the pressure is really there and the Rookie of the Year title was up, that Pedro is a little bit more calm and a little bit more calculated in his approach than Alonso is. I feel like Alonso lost his head a little bit in Valencia. And if he fixes this, he can win the title, of course. But you have to fix it first. And yeah, I think Albert Arenas and Alonso Lopez will be a huge threat to the title. But I still think at the end, Pedro will win every race and qualify on pole every qualifying sessions and finish every free practice session on the top spot. And therefore, I don't see. Obviously, there is a scenario where anybody else could win, but realistically, I don't see anybody beating Pedro. He's too good.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually think that could well be the 1, 2, 3 of this season: Pedro Acosta, Albert Arenas, and Alonso Lopez. I think both those guys are brilliant riders. And like you said, and you're absolutely right, I think they will have a big say in how the title picture goes. But as long as Pedro's Pedro, I think he controls his own destiny this season. And I think as long as he rides as well as we know he can and how he will, then I think it's his title to lose.
Yeah, and he's in the perfect place. You don't want to be anywhere else when you're in Red Bull KTM IO. I don't understand why Daniel Algado went away from Red Bull KTM IO, and I probably won't ever understand. But Pedro is in the perfect space where he has all the tools to win from a talent perspective and from a team perspective. And yeah, he's back with number 37. So this
It's a
should
sign.
seal the deal. Yeah, it's a sign. What's a little bit sad about the number 37 is that the meme you remember where he was standing in front of the bike with the 51 and I crossed out the 5 every time he won. I don't know if this meme is dead now, but
No,
yeah, I could
just
still use it.
just scribble out the 3, scribble out the top part of the 7. You still have number 1.
It's a good
Pedro,
idea.
we've saved the meme. It's still gonna happen.
Or maybe I will use the 51 meme still because it's a little bit of a tradition. I don't know yet. I will have today is Tuesday. I have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 5 days to figure out what to do after Pedro wins the first race. So yeah, I will come up with something.
Nice.
Okay, next point is the Moto 3 World Champion, which is always like throwing a dart without looking. You could pick anybody there, and it's probably wrong, but
Yeah.
yeah, we will still give it a go. So, who's your pick for the Moto 3 World Champion?
Yeah, as you said, this is really a bit of a crapshoot. Moto 3. You could pick about half of the grid, and you could make a fair argument for them winning the title. I've picked Dennis Onshu, another Red Bull rider. The only real factual reason I picked Dennis Onshu is that he's so aggressive that sometimes it just scares the other riders. And I think sometimes it's like that meme you made of the dude riding through Turkey on the scooter. That is basically Dennis Onshu in a nutshell. And sometimes that wins you races, sometimes it loses you races. I think his form was pretty impressive towards the end of last season. Maybe he can carry that into this year. If he can, it's all to play for. But really, he can either win the title or he can completely throw it away. I'm going to say he maybe wins it. But really, apart from that, I have no other factual basis of defense for picking him other than he's batshit crazy.
Yeah, I think he kind of got it he got it under control over the last season. I mean, in 2021, there were a lot of instances where you thought, oh my God, what is happening here? But in 22, he still had those instances, but they were a lot less. And he progressively got cleaner with his racing without losing the aggressiveness, which is usually a good sign. So I think Dennis Öncü will have a couple of good races, but I think he will be hindered by his height and by his weight. And Moto3 still, but it could very well be, I don't know. My pick is Diogo Moreira. And for the simple reason that Diogo Moreira is, from a talent perspective, in my opinion, the best rider on the grid. There's
I would
nobody
agree with that.
better at riding a motorcycle than Diogo Moreira right now. And he went to the Supermoto World Championship, the World Championship, and won a race. He did it just for fun. He won the race. He did it again in this year, I believe, when I was at Rocco's for the Christmas TT. You had riders like Fermin Aldeguer there, Remy Gardner there, Aleix Espargaro, and he was playing with them on the dirt track. It was so incredible to see. And he's super friendly. We talked a little bit. He's a super nice guy, and he deserves everything. The only thing that kind of gets into way with him, or could get into the way with him winning the title, is his team, because it's still a fairly new team. Obviously, teams like Leopard or like Red Bull KTM Ayo are better teams, so I don't know how they will put it together. But from a rider's perspective, with 1 year experience in the same team, where maybe if they figure it out, he can win everything, because he is that good of a rider, and I'm really excited for him in the future. And because of this, it's my pick. But at the end of the day, we don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the only potential doubt with Diogo is the team factor that you mentioned, but as far as pure talent, I agree. I think Diogo Moreira is the best rider on the Moto3 grid. I think he is so ridiculously talented that it's not even fair. I mean, you just told that story about the ranch, which is unbelievable. The fact that he would have the ability to play with much more experienced riders on a dirt bike is just unbelievable. If his team can get it right, I think he's probably the title favorite. But like you said, it all depends on whether the team can get it right. If they can put it together, by all means. If not, then I think it becomes a little bit more of a dogfight in that way. But I'd actually like to see Diogo Moreira win. I think he's an incredibly talented kid. And I think he's a future MotoGP world champion as well. So I'm really excited to see how Moto3 plays out.
Yeah. And the good thing about Moto3 is you don't have to be consistently on the podium. Moto3 is so chaotic, you get away with finishing 8th, 9th, 10th, even sometimes 14th or whatever.
Mhm.
But if you are as consistent as you can be in the class, then you have a fairly good shot at the title, because it's so chaotic. And he had some flashes of greatness last year, and I think he can only build on that. And if he stays injury free, of course, I think he has a good shot at winning the title.
Yeah, and like you said, really, he can only get better. There's no way he can get worse from last year. I think if he can put it together, be consistent, even if they're top 10 finishes, he will be in the mix come the end part of the season. If he can stay consistent, be in the mix, pick up a couple of wins here and there, I think he's my favorite to win the title.
Next, I would like to discuss the rookies of the year. And in MotoGP, it would be as easy as picking Pedro for the Moto2 title, because obviously Augusto Fernandez is the only rookie in the class. So I thought about something different there, a different category to last year, which is that a rider with a new manufacturer. So, for example, Enea Bastianini doesn't count because he stays with Ducati, but a rider with a new manufacturer, who's going to be the best this season? What do you believe?
Well, I've gone for two because I think there's two that are equally valid in mentioning. I won't
You
take up
have
the
to
whole.
choose one.
Oh, well, sorry, people, you got robbed of hearing one of my decisions because Leo said so. So,
No, go on, but choose one at the end.
all right. Well, I was gonna go for the one you've picked, but I'll go for the one you haven't just to keep things interesting. Miguel Oliveira at Aprilia is my pick that I'm gonna mention. I think people have forgotten just how good of a rider Miguel Oliveira is. He's world championship caliber. When he was at KTM, I mean, the races that he won, he dominated. There's never been really a race Miguel Oliveira's won where he didn't deserve to win it. He's either been in the mix like in Austria or he's been in somewhere like Portimao and he's absolutely smashed the rest of the grid to pieces throughout the race. So I think on a bike like the Aprilia that he will have a very good say in molding and developing. I think he will be brilliant and I think he will be a phenomenal asset to that RNF Aprilia team. Miguel Oliveira is my pick for best rider on a new manufacturer's bike this season.
I uh, I can see that happening. And to your point that he deserved every win, you could make an argument that in Austria 2020, Paul Espargaro, who got pushed wide by Jack Miller, and therefore Miguel Oliveira slipped through and won the race, he kind of deserved it a little bit more, in my opinion. But yeah, at the end of the day, you're right. He has won a fair amount of races, and most of them were very, very, very dominant. And when you beat Fabio at Catalonia or those two rain races last year, or where he won in Portugal, even though there's speculation that he may have some advantages to bring to bring Portimao back in 2021. But yeah, he still won the race. You still have to do it, and he was incredible in those races. So I can really, really see it. My pick will be Alex Marquez, and for a few reasons. Alex Marquez, in my opinion, is a better rider than Miguel Oliveira. He's a two-time world champion. He is, yeah, he is on a V4 Honda. Came on into MotoGP on a V4 Honda, where he had the V4 riding style, and then goes on a V4 Ducati. So basically, most of it is the same, except that Ducati is much better. And Miguel Oliveira came from a steel framed shitbox, which is named the KTM, and goes onto an aluminium bike. So I believe there has to be a lot of adjustments made for his riding style. And therefore, I think that Alex Marquez has the edge over him. I think he's A, the better rider, with B, the better bike, and C, less adaptation to do. So, yeah, that's my reason behind it.
Well, that's a completely fair argument, and I'm not going to argue with you. I think Alex Marquez would be a lot of people's favorite, especially after the testing where he's floating around the top five, top six, which is quite frankly unbelievable. I think the bike is going to make all the difference. I think Alex Marquez is going to have a much more fun season this season being on the Ducati as opposed to the new shitbox, which is called Honda. I think he's going to enjoy it a lot more, I have to say. But I think both riders will have great seasons. I think Oliveira is going to be a lot happier being away from KTM and being able to breathe and almost having a Maverick Vinales type reset and being with a new team, being able to enjoy it and being able to develop the experience. But I do think Alex Marquez would be many people's favorite to be the best rider on a new bike. And I'm not going to argue with that because I think it makes sense.
Yeah, and additionally, I forgot one point. I think Resini is the far better team than RNF. RNF looks like a mess a couple of times, and there's a little bit of a potential. We have the bold predictions later on in the race, in the episode. I'm sorry, but I will throw one bold prediction out now. Is that Crypto Data, the sponsor of RNF, will pull out mid-season because I don't trust it that it will be liquid all year around with the whole crypto shit going on or whatever they do. It looks like a
Jesus.
huge yeah, it looks like a huge money laundering thing, and without knowing actually anything there, my uneducated guess is that the sponsor will go bankrupt sometime in the season.
Bold
And
prediction: Miguel Oliveira gets arrested for money laundering.
what if Bang Bros
Oh, for
or Pornhub
fuck's sake!
step in?
You got the little drum intro at the beginning.
Yeah. And one little bold prediction I want to add as well. I don't think that the Indian GP or the Kazakhstan GP, I don't know which one. I don't think it will happen, and I think one of the two will be substituted with Aragon. This is my second uneducated guess, because I don't believe it that you can just like this go on a new track. And yeah.
Well, no, I'm sure further on in the season we'll discuss those, but I'm really glad you did. And being serious for a minute, I am glad you actually mentioned them because I think the Kazakh GP doesn't make any sense at all. But then again, it's Giancarlo's cousin or nephew running it, so of course we all know why we're getting it. The problem with the Indian GP is that I know India is an F1 country. You know, I get that they're mad about that, but does that even make any sense? Like the one of our big issues last year, ladies and gentlemen, you'll remember this from watching the podcast. The traveling itinerary and the lack of planning that went into it was a mess. How the hell are you going to plan going to India and back and fitting it in with the rest of the schedule?
I think that India makes a lot of sense, and I really like that they're going there because it's a huge country. They have over 1 billion people there.
True.
So I think a couple of them will like MotoGP. Then it's a huge market for all the manufacturers, like except Ducati, who builds small motorcycles, because those Southeastern again, those Southeast Asian countries are notorious for having those small bikes or scooters
That's true.
driving around anywhere. So I think it's a brilliant move to go to India. I don't know if the infrastructure holds up, but I'm in no position judging that because I have never been there. I have no idea what's going on in India. But I think the Kazakhstan GP doesn't make any sense. It's just money. Like Qatar, it's just money. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have to say, aside from the logistics of getting there, I do think the Indian Grand Prix will be brilliant because, like you said, India is first of all, it's literally like its own continent. It's a massive, massive country with over 1 billion people living there. A lot of those people, hundreds of millions of them, love motorcycles, like a lot of Southeast Asia. So, from a marketing point of view, you don't even have to sell it because it sells itself. And I think the fans will love it. So I do think from that point of view, it will be brilliant. I'd actually love to go to it because I think it would be a brilliant experience. But yeah, India, I'm really looking forward to, but Kazakhstan, I'm not. That doesn't make any sense to anybody. And with respect, unless you're Borat, who wants to go to Kazakhstan? Let's be real here.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, maybe if you're Shafkat, you're happy about the Kazakhstan
Oh God.
GP, but I think he has other things to do. I think the Kazakhstan GP will more or less have empty grandstands. I think India, if it happens, will have great success. But yeah, I still doubt that both will happen. I don't know which one won't happen, but I think one of the two will fall out and will be replaced by Aragon.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so back to the Rookie of the Year stuff. Who is your Rookie of the Year in Moto 2?
Yeah, so my pick for Moto 2 is actually quite interesting. I was actually going to go with the same pick you made, but we try to keep it varied and interesting, so we don't want to go for the same thing all the time. And I've gone for Kota Nozone, or Nozane, sorry, I had it right the first time. I've gone for Kota Nozane of the VR46 camp team. I think he's a brilliant young rider. You know, nothing but rave reviews, unlimited potential, and I think he'll make a real splash this year. I think obviously with the introduction of that new team, it will be a difficult adjustment in certain places. But I think if any young rider has the potential to get the most out of that bike, it's Kota Nozone. And I'm backing him to be Moto2 Rookie of the Year. Kota Nozane is my pick.
My pick is the reigning Moto3 World Champion Isa Guevara. I think he has several advantages. He knows all the tracks, he knows the team, and yeah, again, Moto 2 is a difficult class for a rookie, but I think at the end of the day, Isan will do a good job because he's immensely talented, and I think he can even win a race here and there because he is very, very capable of riding a motorcycle.
I agree. And plus, one of the other reasons I went for Kota Nozane is it's time the Japanese had a really good rider back who's capable of challenging for titles. So I hope it's Kota Nozane because the Japanese deserve it.
Not like Iogur, who is fumbling the title away as soon as he
Uh,
has like one hand on it.
no one has fumbled the bag that badly since Steven Gerrard in 2014. Nobody has fumbled it this badly.
Yeah, and Moto 3 Rookie of the Year, which is for Moto 3 standards, in my opinion, fairly easy
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because
so my pick for Moto 3 Rookie of the Year, I think this is one of the few pages that we're actually the same on for these predictions. My rookie from Moto 3, or my rookie of the year from Moto 3 this year is Jose Antonio Rueda. Again, a bit like Kota Nozane in Moto 2, I just think he's a brilliant young rider. He's proven what he can do. He's proven it many times, and I think with the right team that he's in, on the right bike, I think he'll be brilliant. I'm not expecting him to win races or do this or do that, but I think he will have truly solid finishes, and I think he will certainly look back in 2023, and I think he'll think he's had a very respectable campaign. So Jose Rueda will be my Moto 3 Rookie of the Year.
I will 100% think that he will win a race here and there because all the races in Europe for a rookie who has raced there on the Rookies Cup calendar or on the Junior GP calendar is still a very possible outcome of winning that.
Oh, yeah.
And I also think that, again, Red Bull KTM Ayo is a bit of a cheat code. He will have all the experience from Aki and all the setups from Pedro, from Daniel Gado, from Jaume Maciel, where he can work with and get to know the bike, the team, and the whole championship very well. And I think that Jose Antonio Rueda will win races, but I don't think he will win the title for the reason that when Pedro did it, obviously Pedro is brilliant, but Pedro got a little bit lucky as well because in 2021 we had, except for the America's GP, no overseas races.
Mhm.
We had the Qatar race, which he won, so he kind of proves my point wrong there. But he basically raced only on tracks he knew, and there were a lot of double headers. So you gain the experience from race one and carry it into race two. Rueda doesn't have it. And he will have to adapt to a lot of new circuits, adapt to the whole traveling schedule when you are 7, 8 weeks away from home, traveling all the time. Because, as we discussed a couple of minutes ago, the calendar is absolutely ridiculous. And therefore, I don't think he will win the title, but on races where he is familiar with the track and he can win it because he's that good. He's the only rider who won the Junior GP and the Rookies Cup in the same year, and he's coming into the season as the clear Rookie of the Year favorite. There's no doubt about it, and I think he can win a lot of races or score a lot of podiums this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think for Jose Rueda, the big thing is not putting too much pressure on him. That's the only reason I'm setting the bar that low. I'm in no way saying he cannot smash through that bar. In fact, I think he probably will. I just think for him, the big thing is, especially in the first few races, just getting comfortable, getting familiar, scoring a few decent positions, and then taking it from there. As long as he does that, the sky truly is the limit for Jose Rueda. That I absolutely believe. If he can go out and bag race wins throughout the season, then I think that's brilliant. But as far as I'm concerned for him, first few races, just solid, just stable, and then take it from there. But there's a very good reason we both have him as Rookie of the Year, and that's because I think he will be.
Do you think Jose is sitting at home secretly watching the Bad MotoGP show and shitting himself because Keelan put too much pressure on him?
Yes, I think he is actually.
Yeah,
Jose, if you're watching this, I'm very, very sorry. But prove me wrong. Prove me
yeah.
wrong. Go out, smash the barrier, and if you block me on Instagram, at least I'll know why.
Okay. Okay, so what is the next category? Yeah, the biggest surprise in MotoGP. So we have biggest surprise in MotoGP, Moto2, and Moto3, and we will start with MotoGP. Who is your biggest surprise, Keelan?
Well, my biggest surprise from MotoGP this year isn't actually a who, it's actually a what. And my biggest surprise for MotoGP this year is that the Yamaha will actually not be a piece of shit this year. I know, bold. But the reason I say that is this there's actually two reasons. Firstly, Yamaha have shown in the testing that whilst they're not where they need to be yet, they've shown that they actually have picked up a little bit of top speed here and there, which is very good. It's what they need. It's more importantly what Fabio needs. So that's the first reason, and hopefully they'll work on that throughout the season, of course. My second big reason is that Fabio Quartararo himself has come out in several interviews and said that he's actually very happy with what Yamaha have done with the bike. Now, I don't know everything they've done with the bike aside from the top speed, but if Fabio's happy with the bike, then I kind of have to be happy with the bike because I trust what Fabio Quartararo says. And if Fabio's happy with it and he's got a good mindset coming into this season, then maybe he can usurp Ducati. Maybe he can. It's a huge ask. But if he's actually happy with the bike this year compared to where he was last year, then I see no reason not to trust him. My bold prediction for MotoGP this year is that the Yamaha might actually come good for once.
I think that Yamaha has a lot of issues, which they solved by just going back to the 22 package.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, they brought the new engine, which is good. And they went back to the 22 aero, they went back to the 22 chassis, and you see it a lot, especially Ducati is a very good example last year. When you bring in a new bike, you don't understand the new bike fully and everything's a little bit complicated. But once you understand the bike, you will improve massively. And if Yamaha only has a new engine, the new chassis doesn't work, the new aero doesn't work, something went wrong in the development area. And even with the rear spoiler, they had the Corsa spoiler, which is obviously just a test. We discussed it a lot on the episode I had with Jack Gorse, the test reviews. We went in depth on everything they brought to the test. But the Stegosaurus was a little bit odd because Fabio kind of liked it, but they still not using it. So I don't know what's up with that. And it feels like Yamaha is pretty clueless on what's next for the bike, and but they're very comfortable with the bike they had in 22 and just put a new engine in. So I think Yamaha will do good, of course, with Fabio because Fabio is, to me, still the best rider in the world. But I think as the season goes on and the other manufacturers understand the new bike more, and you have to still compete with 8 Ducatis and 4 Aprilias, who, in my opinion, are still better bikes. So it will be a very difficult task. But I think those will pull ahead unless Yamaha brings some updates during the season, because I believe they're allowed to do one aero update or maybe two. I don't know. I'm not too familiar with the regulations. So I think Yamaha obviously has a chance to be good in Portimao or whatever, but I think as the season goes on, they will struggle a lot. And my pick, let me check. My pick is Raul Fernandez because Raul Fernandez, the moral champion of the 2021 season, had an absolute catastrophic rookie season with Tech
Oh.
3. But take this out of his resume and he's the next big star because he went to Moto 3 in 2019 and in 2020 he was winning races. In 21 he went to Moto 2 and obviously finished as the moral champion. So this is an accomplishment in itself. And then went to MotoGP where everything went wrong. But now on the Aprilia, which is a good bike and which is still aluminium frame, which he got was very, very fast on the Moto 2. Um, he has all the potential to erase this catastrophic last year and make a lot of people remember who he really is. Because I believe Raul Fernandez, from a talent perspective, is one of the best riders on the grid. What he has done in 2020, 21 is super, super impressive. And yeah, it's always what have you done for me lately? But with Raul Fernandez, I think he has the opportunity to turn a lot of heads around.
I think that's a great pick. I really do. I mean, I know we both rate Raul Fernandez very highly, especially his title of moral champion. And some would say that's more important than the actual title. I'm not saying I do. Some people think it is, though. But in all seriousness, Raul Fernandez is a phenomenally gifted rider. I mean, you don't survive his year last year unless you really know what you're doing and you have a lot of potential. And I think this year you will see the real Raul Fernandez, just like you'll see the real Miguel Oliveira. I think they'll both be great for the same reasons, actually. I think people have forgotten how truly brilliant this kid is at riding a motorcycle. I mean, if that's not Remy Gardner in 2021, Raul Fernandez absolutely wipes the floor with the rest of the grid by about 1,000 points. People do forget that. Raul Fernandez is so naturally gifted, it's not even funny. And with the right bike, he will make waves in races in this bloody sprint race, which is coming up as well. With the right bike, with the right team, with the right mindset, Raul Fernandez will do damage. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing his season this year.
Yes. And my Moto 2 biggest surprise is Manu Gonzalez. He had a couple of good races last year towards the end, but wasn't really in a position where he could shine. What stood out to me was Malaysia, where he was battling for the podium. But I think after this season with the Carlex and getting ready, getting comfortable with the Moto 2, he is ready to take the next step. I'm not saying he will compete for the championship, but I think he will be consistently in the top 5 and be able to challenge for a podium or even maybe if something happens with Pedro, maybe challenge for a win. No, but in all seriousness, Manu Gonzalez is a very, very capable rider, and I think he will do serious damage occasionally. I don't know if he will be able to put it together for the whole season, but I think he will turn a lot of heads around.
Yeah, I think Kota Nozane and Manu Gonzalez are going to be a great team in that VR46 team. I think they're both brilliant young riders, and I think Manu Gonzalez is a brilliant young rider for the reasons that you've mentioned. My surprise for Moto 2 is Lord Pedro continuing his origin story. And what I mean by that is that people are going to look at this, they're going to comment, oh, Keelan, how's that a surprise? You both love Lord Pedro. He's going to win every single race. How's that so surprising? Yes, it is a surprise, and it's going to be a surprise because of how easy I think he's going to make it look. And what I mean by that is that I think he's going to win a majority of the races, and I think there's going to be a much bigger distance in Moto 2 winning than it has been in previous years. I think there will be a big gap towards the end of the season, and I think Pedro will win it comfortably. That's why it's going to be a surprise. It's not a surprise because Pedro's going to win or because he's going to dominate, because we know he's going to dominate, we know he's going to win, and we know he's going to win because we know he's the GOAT in waiting. But this is part of the origin story. I think Pedro's going to win, and I think he's going to make it look easier than people think he will. Pedro Acosta, Moto 2 world champion in waiting, memes in waiting. Can't wait.
Do you think he will win from the pit lane again?
Yes, I think he will. I don't know how it's going to happen. Maybe it'll happen in India or Kazakhstan. I don't know, but I hope it does happen because then the circle would be complete. Pit Lane Pedro wins a race from pit lane in every category. That's GOAT status right there. I don't even care.
If you're playing a video game and it's too easy, so you start messing around, that's what Pedro is gonna do this season.
Man's completing side quests at this point. He's
Yeah.
completed the mission. He's just doing side quests.
Like those triangles, those pyramids on the PlayStation you get where you get the top, which only like 1.1% of
Yeah.
the people unlock. It's like win a race from pit lane in every category. He's aiming for that.
That's what I guarantee you that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
He can't just win
Okay.
normally anymore. That's not enough. He has to win in the most difficult. You know what he's going to do? One day he's going to win so easily that he's going to set an accomplishment for himself that says win from the truck that carries the bike to the grid. That's what he's going to do. He's not even going to start from the pit anymore.
Do you remember when Lewis Hamilton won on three wheels? Pedro will do some shit like this, like
Pedro wins on a
when
unicycle.
yeah, doing a wheelie all the time.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so back to the serious business. Moto 3 biggest surprise.
Yeah, my biggest surprise is again, it's not really a surprise based on how much we've sung his praises, but I think Diogo Moreira absolutely shines. Again, I understand this one. This probably isn't the biggest surprise, but I think he's just going to shine so brightly that it's going to surprise a few people because there are some people who maybe don't know who he is yet. They maybe don't know how good he is. But I think Diogo Moreira is going to show a lot of people just why we rate him so highly. I think he is going to compete for race wins. I think he's going to be in the championship mix. And if he does win, which I think is very possible, then I think he's just going to shock the world, really.
My pick is Jose Antonio Rueda. For all the reasons I laid out, I think he
Mm-hmm.
will be competitive from the first race on. When you look back at the Rookies Cup race last year in Portimao, like the first race of the season, I believe, he won by multiple seconds, and he is incredible. If he gets clean air in front of it, and he was usually gone. And I think he can do stuff like this in Moto 3 in the World Championship. So yeah, for all the reasons I just mentioned, I think Jose Antonio Reda will hit the ground running. Over the overseas races, I think it will be difficult for all the reasons I laid out as well. But I think he will be a big surprise because on how competitive he will be in Europe.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. I think it makes a lot of sense, and I would be inclined to agree with it as well. I think Jose Rueda is going to show a lot of people why he's here and what he's here to do.
Are you ready to get into the fun part?
Yes.
The biggest disappointment?
Ah, yes, the story of our MotoGP lives, the biggest disappointments of the season.
Like the disappointed Wale meme? Who's the disappointed Wale of the season?
Oh, what that see when we do our end of season awards show, that's a category, the disappointed Valentino rider of the year. We need to
Yeah,
make that a thing because that's brilliant.
that's a good idea. Okay, so who's your MotoGP biggest disappointment?
My MotoGP disappointment of the year, again, it's not a rider, it's a thing, and it's going to be Honda. Now, the reason I said Honda is because they just don't know what the hell they're doing, basically. A bit like the last 3 years. They really do not know what the hell they're doing. Mark Marquez is the only person really keeping them respectable, and then the rest are down at the foot of the leaderboard, basically. I mean, with Joan Mir and Alex Rins, they will be desperately hoping to turn their fortunes around. They'll be hoping to change the dynamic of the team, and I think they may have some success with that. But the bike's just so bad, and it's in such a lull and a grey area that I think Honda are just going to be so bad this year that I think they warrant being disappointment of the season.
I actually think Honda won't be as bad as a lot of people, including you, think.
Really?
Because, yes, because A, it will look a lot worse than, or it looks a lot worse than they actually are, because Marc Marquez was injured for 2 seasons. Last season was a bit of a roller coaster for him. Then he had Paul as a teammate who had a good start to the season, but there was a point in the season where he knew I'm not going to be here for next year. He didn't get all the latest development parts, and like a little bit with Raul Fernandez and Tech 3, when you know you're not going to be there for next season, it takes away of the motivation. Then Tucker had some injury issues, and Alex Marquez, he kind of knew as well that he's going somewhere else. And yeah, I believe Honda has made a step from last season, but also it will look worse because you're competing against 8 Ducatis. If there were just 4 Ducatis on the grid, it's maybe not as bad. So yeah, I think that Mark Marquez will do a lot of good things this season, but also a lot of bad things. But I also think that Joan Mir and Alex Rins will not be as bad as many people might think. I was convinced that Alex Rins will have a bad start to his Honda career because I thought his riding style won't fit the Honda, but apparently it's going well, going uh, from what he said on the after the tests. So yeah, I don't think that Honda will be as bad as you think. A, because of Mark Marquez, and Mark Marquez is capable of doing anything, and also because I feel like the rider lineup is much better, and Honda made a step forward, even though they're not there yet on the level where Ducati is, but they're still better than last year, in my opinion. So my biggest disappointment of the season will be Jack Miller, because Jack Miller is a very capable rider, but not on a level of Pecco or Enea, and that's the reason he lost his Ducati. When you
True.
remember on the Ducati, he had good races, more towards the end of the season, but he usually had some good races on the Ducati, but he wasn't the most consistent rider on the grid, and he had a lot of issues with using up the rear tire towards the end. And now he's on a KTM, which, in my opinion, is a very, very, very difficult bike. The steel framed shitbox is so inconsistent, that's the word. It's so inconsistent, and it feels like from the outside that they don't even understand what's wrong with it. And when you come from a Ducati where everything works, you have to adapt everything to the steel frame, which is a completely different bike. The riding style has to be completely different. The feeling you get is completely different. And yeah, then you're in yourself not the most consistent, right? And I also think that Jack Miller isn't as good as Brad Binder is. I'm not trying to tell you that he's bad or anything. He's a very, very capable rider if he's on the right bike. I just don't think that the KTM is the right bike for him.
Yeah, completely agree.
Or who's your Moto2 biggest disappointment?
Well, my Moto 2 disappointment of the year is 50% of the reason we have the disappointed valet meme, so in many ways it is morally appropriate. My Moto 2 disappointment of the year is Celestino Vietti. I don't think this one requires much in-depth explanation or justification. He's probably going to have a very good start to this year, and then he's going to throw it away by DNFing in every race past the 50% halfway point. We're going to see many more disappointed Valet memes because of Celestino Vietti. He let me down last year. He will let me down again. Celestino Vietti, I'm sorry, but your disappointment of the year from Moto 2. There's no real nice way to say it.
I think Vietti has the opportunity of learning a lot.
But
And
will he?
when that's the question. Obviously, we don't know. But he showed last year that he is very, very fast. And he showed last year that he is very, very prone to crashing, especially when you're in a good position. But if he is able to forget what happened towards the end of last season, learn from his mistakes, get his mind in the right place, he has the potential of doing very well. And I would give him the benefit of the doubt and said he went home this winter, kind of reset everything and builds from the good things of last year and eliminating the bad things of last year, and therefore being a better rider. This is my opinion. But yeah, let's see how it works out after he has the long lap penalty or double long lap penalty in the first race. So yeah, which is ridiculous that you can carry a penalty over to the next season. But yeah, my biggest disappointment is our MotoGP not rookie of the year, Darren Binder, and for the reason that I don't think it's beneficial for the development of a rider to go from Moto 3 to MotoGP to Moto 2. And yeah, I don't know. I'm not very sure, and I think he will not be where you might think a rider coming from MotoGP should be. So when you remember where Tom Lüthi ended up after going to MotoGP and coming back, or where Sam Lowes ended up going to MotoGP and coming back, I think he will have a lot more struggles because he has no experience on the Moto2 bike and therefore no way to build on that. And I think that he will crash a lot. I think he will not be as fast as you would think. And yeah, I don't see any scenario where Darren Binder has a good rookie season.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the reigning and defending disappointment from last year will retain his title this year, it would appear. No, I do agree. To be honest with you, I've never agreed with jumping from Moto 3 to MotoGP because if you have to fall back in Moto 2, you have no experience there and you're kind of right back where you started. The problem with Darren Binder is that I don't think he'll have learned anything from last year. I think he'll be the same. I think he'll be reckless. I think he'll crash a lot. And I think it's actually a very good shout for disappointment of the year from Moto 2. Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I think Darren Binder's a strong contender.
Jack Dixon has also a say in disappointment of the year, I believe.
Oh, that's not fair. I think Jake's going to be all right this year.
No, I don't. I don't think he has the capabilities that people want him to have.
That's a good way of framing it. I think this is a fair argument. I do think he's gotten a lot better, though, to be fair. I mean, he's much more consistent than he's ever been.
Yeah, funnily enough, he only got this seat last year because he went to Dorna and said, "Hey, I'm out of a ride," after Petronas pulled out. And apparently, Alonso Lopez had the seat at Aspar, but then Dorna kind of intervened and said, "Hey, you have to give it to the British rider because we have enough Spanish riders." So, yeah, that's what I've heard. But um, yeah, he proved the decision to be right in a way last year, even though he still wasn't as good as Alonso Lopez was. But yeah, I don't think he. And to consider someone a disappointment, you have the expectations here and there have uh, to finish significantly lower there. And I think a lot of people are hyping him up to win races and to compete for the championship. And I just don't see it. But yeah, Jake, crash and delete again, please, so I can make memes.
Jake, you serve an important purpose on this podcast. We need the
Yeah,
material.
yeah. There are a lot of writers who have a very significant role of fucking shit up and therefore making good content for the memes. So know your place in the MotoGP grid and please deliver.
Do it for the culture.
Yeah, do it for the culture. A lot of people count on you, Jake. Okay, who's your biggest disappointment in Moto 3?
Right. Excuse me. So on the Moto 3, my biggest disappointment, and I have this in brackets again, is Jaume Masia. I think Jaume Masia is just going to let me down again. He let me down last year. I think he's going to let me down again this year. His expectations going to be up here. I think he's going to end up being about here. And I would look like an idiot for defending him again. So to be honest, Jaume Masia is my disappointment of the year for Moto 3.
If I remember correctly, he was your championship pick last year, so that went downhill, and
That
now,
went downhill fast.
yeah, and now you're pretty. What is it? Pity?
Yeah, basically,
Yeah,
I am not high on Jaume Masia at all.
yeah. I mean, Jaume has all the capabilities in the world, but I don't know what's going on with the switch back to Leopard, and it seems like he's a little bit caught in some kind of a circle where he can't get out. I think he has a lot of potential, but I don't see a real development there, you know? I feel
Yeah,
like since 2020 he's more or less in the same place and it's difficult, but let me say it this way, the Honda, if it's better and if it suits his style more, he can do some damage
true.
occasionally. I don't think he will be consistently good.
No, I think that's a fair argument to make.
My biggest disappointment actually is Dennis Önci. And not that I think he will have a bad season. I think he will have a fairly good season. But as you had him as your championship pick, as many people have him as a championship contender. I don't think he will live up to it because I think he isn't. It's not that he isn't capable of doing it. He is very tall and heavy for the class, and he tends to lose his head a little bit. And I don't think that he will be able to put the consistency in that you need to win a title. I don't think he never won a race, even, and I don't think that if you want a rider to win a championship, that he has the right state of mind, because he tends to be a little, overly aggressive and a little, even though he's gotten clearly better at it, it's still a very, very different kind of task to keep your head in the right place to win a championship, where the pressure is immense, or keep your head in the right place where you're in a race fighting for a good position. That's two different games, And I think that he will do good. I think he will even maybe win a race or two, but I don't think he will win the championship. I think he's too tall, he's too heavy, and he will not be able to be calm enough in certain situations. So yeah, therefore I don't think he will win the title.
Yeah, he's like the Danilo Petrucci of Moto 3. Great rider, but just too big and too heavy. I think that's a fair enough argument to make, but I
Yeah.
think the ability's definitely there.
Yeah, but then again, it's Moto 3 and everything can happen. And at the end of the day, we don't know. I feel like I can make the most educated guess on MotoGP, then Moto 2, and Moto 3 is just a lottery. I mean, it could be true, it could be very, very untrue. And I don't know. But he has all the tools from a rider's perspective where he's good, he's very fast, even though I thought a lot of times last year that he's missing this last step in pace. But also you could develop this, so I don't know. But he also was in Tech 3, and Tech 3 in MotoGP at least is a total mess. So I don't know how good they are in Moto 3, and maybe it's good for him to be at Akiayo. So yeah, I don't know. Okay. Um, MotoGP Constructors champion. I think we can wrap this up in 10 seconds again.
Yep. Ducati, most bikes, best riders. Next question.
Yeah. Um, this is interesting. Best independent team in
Yeah.
MotoGP.
So did you say best independent team or best rider?
Best independent. Oh, best independent rider, and afterwards is team I fucked up.
Yeah, no, it's okay. This will be pretty quick for me because both are pretty much the same anyway. Miguel Oliveira is my independent rider of the year. Independent team or crypto data for however long that lasts. RNF Aprilia. Oliveira, been over it already. Think he's a great rider. People have forgotten how good he is. I think with the new headspace, new team, new bike, new opportunities to develop, I think he'll get back to his very best. I think he may even win some races this year, maybe a bit of a bold prediction, but he'll certainly be in the mix. I think he'll be a top 10 rider most weekends, and I just think he'll be really, really good. Now, again, crypto data RNF Aprilia probably will last for about 6 races if we're lucky. But as for the actual team, I think with the Raul Fernandez and Miguel Oliveira, I think that's a great pairing. I think it's a great blend of youth and experience with two world class riders. And if they can put it together, they could do some real damage. So the sponsors will fall apart. Someone will get arrested for money laundering, but the team itself, I think, could be a very good pairing.
I think after Pornhub steps in, they will have a massive increase of performance.
Oh, for God's sake. A little
Yeah.
blue button on the bike.
Okay. I don't think RNF will be the best independent team because RNF in itself, I don't trust the structure. Maybe it's
Fair
just me.
argument.
I don't really have a good explanation on why. I just think it's a feeling, like a gut feeling that this thing isn't managed properly.
They're just not very trustworthy, are they?
Yeah, yeah, maybe it's that. I don't know. And the bike looks so boring. The livery is so fucking boring. Yeah. Um, and Miguel Oliveira, I don't think he will win best independent rider because he's still adapting to a new bike. There were a lot of riders who are very, very fast and very, very good on bikes that they've been on for like 2, 3 seasons or maybe even more. I don't know. And yeah, my pick for best independent rider is Jorge Martin. I think the 23 Ducati suits him a lot better than the 22 Ducati. I think the whole factory seat thing is out of his head right now, and maybe he will put in some good performances to qualify for the Yamaha factory seat. So yeah, I think that Jorge Martin will be more like the 2021 Jorge Martin than the 22 Jorge Martin. And he said that the new engine is very, very different. And this is like the main weakness of the Ducati in 22 for the GP22. And yeah, I think the 23 Ducati is just better for him. I think that his state of mind is just better for him. And I think that he will win races. And I definitely think he will win a sprint race. I'm very, very, very sure that he will. I think he has also the potential to win a real race. And yeah, to me, Jorge Martin, I don't think he's a championship contender, but he's definitely a contender for podiums on a regular basis and even race wins. And with his qualifying pace and the sprint race, this is a recipe for disaster for everybody else, maybe except Pecco.
Yeah, I think that just to step in real quick before you go on to your team, I think the sprint race will actually suit Jorge Martin really, really well because over a short period of sort of laps and so on, his pace tends to be out of this world. So that could actually be a real positive for Jorge Martin. That I didn't think of that. That's a great point.
Yeah. It's still weird that you still have to account for the sprint races every time you think about something in MotoGP because I guess we are also used to just thinking about a race and what is happening on a race weekend normally and what's happening on a qualifying. But you have this in between thing now where you have to combine those two. And Jorge Martin's pace in qualifying is second to none. And Jorge Martin's pace at the beginning of a race in clean air is Jorge Lorenzo-esque. Look what he did in Malaysia, for example, last year on a bike he wasn't very, very comfortable on. And the GP21 back then in Qatar, where he finished on the podium on the second race, he had pole position and he was leading for a very, very long time. And I just think that Jorge Martin is built for sprint races, where you don't have to worry about tires, where you don't have to worry about fuel. I mean, this is really interesting. In MotoGP, you are allowed to put 22 liters of fuel into your bike on a race. So in a sprint race, which is half distance, you would think they get 11 liters, but they get 12 liters. So it's one extra liter that they can use over the race distance. And for a bike like Ducati, which has a lot of power and therefore maybe cuts down a little bit on the fuel input to preserve the fuel, they will benefit massively, I believe. And I think that Jorge Martin will be very, very capable of winning main races and also winning sprint races and being very, very, very good if he's able to learn from all of his mistakes last year.
Yeah. I mean, not much to add to that. I agree.
And of course, he has to stay injury free because Jorge Martin is a bit injury prone. So let's hope he stays healthy because if he stays healthy, he's an absolute motherfucker.
Oh, I mean, no question. When he's healthy, he's one of the best on the grid.
Yeah. Talent wise, he is up there. And there are a few things I believe that are holding him back. And I hope that the whole factory thing is out of his head right now and he just concentrates on winning races because he's very capable on doing that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. As long as his headspace is clear, there's few that can stop him. So long as that's out of his head, he will be very good.
Yes. And my best independent team will be the Valentino Rossi team, which with Marco Bezzecchi and Luca Marini. Luca Marini had an amazing offseason. He finished first in the test in Valencia, he finished first in the test in Sepang, and he was good in Portimao. I think that he has a perfect situation for him, which is the same bike as last year, same team as last year. Everything's the same. He can build on everything he made in 2022. He had a lot of good. He had a lot of good races, especially towards the end. He is very, very consistent. I believe he's still officially a rider who finished every race, even though he crashed in Thailand. But I believe he picked the bike up and whatever.
Hmm.
But he's very consistent, and I also think that Marco Bezzecchi will have flashes of brilliance this season, like he did last year. Last year in Assen, I believe he finished on a podium in Assen, right?
I think he
Um,
finished third, yeah.
yeah, he was incredible in a lot of races, and I think that he with GP22, with all the data they had, and with Luca Marini as his teammate, and I don't think there's any rivalry between him or like a healthy rivalry. And I think they will help each other. I think it's a great atmosphere, perfect bike for those two, and I think they both have the potential to have very, very good seasons. And therefore, I think collectively they will be the best independent team.
It's a great pick. It's a really great pick. I like it a lot. I don't think anybody's given enough spotlight to Marini and Bezecchi, but they're probably happy with it being that way. They'll just do their thing below the radar, and they will be very impressive this year. I like that. That's a good pick.
Yeah, and a lot like Enea Bastianini, Luca Marini's development curve is very, very consistent upwards. Maybe not as as good as Enea Bastianini. Like if Enea Bastianini is here, Luca Marini is a little bit below, but
Yeah.
still, he almost won the Moto2 title when Enea Bastianini won it at the end. And again, he had some incredible races last year and got a little bit overshadowed by his fellow Italian riders last season. But I think he is very, very capable of even winning a race.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, now let the fun begin again. Our top three bold predictions in MotoGP. I mean, I kind of have five after discussing some of it earlier. But yeah, crypto data won't last more than half the season. After the summer break, they will have a Pornhub sponsorship. And I think that India or Kazakhstan won't happen. So those are like my two unofficial bold predictions. But now we're coming to the official bold predictions. So yeah, would you tell us your bold predictions?
Yeah, sure thing. I kind of have a couple of my own after what we've discussed, but I'll stick with what I've got written down and then we'll get into whatever we have after that. So my first bold prediction for this year is that the Yamaha is much more competitive this year. Again, we've discussed that earlier on in the podcast. I think they've found something. Fabio seems happy with it, which leads me to be happy with it. Which, at the end of the day, Fabio being happy is all that matters, really. And hopefully, Franco Morbidelli will actually be contributing this year, so he may actually be able to share the workload a little bit more. But I think Yamaha will be competitive this year. Bold prediction number two, because this dovetails into number three. Alex Marquez finishes above Mark in the end of season standings. I don't know if that's necessarily bold, but I do think that will happen. And I think seeing Alex above Mark will just fuck people up so badly that I'm going to count it as shocking. And then my third bold prediction, which is the least likely, but we have bold predictions for a reason. I think Mark Marquez leaves Honda at the end of this year, and by 2024, he's with Ducati or somebody else. Now, the reason that there is actually a base to why I'm saying this. The reason I think Mark leaves Honda is that for the first time in ever, we're hearing serious rumors about Mark being truly unhappy at Honda. And we have a very famous saying, I'm sure you have it as well. There's no smoke without fire. And I do believe there is something to this. And when you think about Mark Marquez, he's what, 31 years old now, 31 territory. He's just recovered from yet another career ending injury. And yet the bike hasn't gotten any better. And Mark knows that if he's planning to hunt down Valentino's record of world titles, he doesn't have a lot of time left to do it. So he really is looking to make one or two more good runs at another title. And he's looking at that Honda and thinking, is this the bike that's going to do that for me? And I don't think it is. I don't think anybody thinks it is. Couple that with the fact that Alex Marquez has been doing so brilliantly in preseason testing on board a Ducati. I think things are starting to move here, and I think Mark will eventually leave Honda.
Where do you think will Mark end up at Ducati?
Well, see, this is the interesting question because I don't actually know. My best guess, and again, it isn't something I've thought about, but on the fly, this is my prediction. I think Ducati get rid of Johan Zarco and they move Mark into Pramac. Because I mean, look, Mark probably won't accept Pramac, and I know that's probably what you're thinking. But I don't think Ducati get rid of Bastianini or Bagnaia to make way for Mark. And I think with Mark, this is the first time in Mark's career where he doesn't have all the cards and he doesn't have the leverage. If he wants to move, he's going to have to accept moving to somewhere like Pramac because the factory team are not going to jettison Bagnaia or Bastianini to make room for a now injured Mark Marquez. If he's willing to accept Pramac, he ends up there. If he's not willing to accept second fiddle, which he probably won't, then who knows? But I don't think it'll be with Honda beyond the end of the season.
I believe that Ducati will be stupid. I discussed it a little bit with Jack Gorst. He said Ducati would be brave, but I think Ducati would be stupid to replace either Enea Bastianini or Pecco Bagnaia with Marc Marquez. I don't think this is ever going to happen because they are the future and Marc Marquez is the past. I don't think even that Marc Marquez offers more value to Ducati than Joan Zarco because I know this sounds crazy, but Joan Zarco is doing all the testing work that Ducati wants him to do. I believe he rode the whole season without a front ride height device because it was banned for next season, also for this season, and therefore gained a lot of valuable data. He's very selfless,
Yeah, that's very true. He is
and
very selfless.
I believe this adds a lot more value to Ducati than Marc Marquez, who's obviously very selfish because he wants one thing, and this is a world title, and he doesn't give a fuck about anything else. And I don't also think that they would give him or that he would accept a Pramac seat. And I think to Ducati, maybe somebody like Pedro or some other Moto2 riders or like Bezecchi or whatever, they offer more value for them over the long term than Marc Marquez will. But what Marc Marquez does is he brings all the sponsorship money, all the attention. And therefore, if he indeed, Marc Marquez has a contract until the end of 2024, so he's set for Honda for this season and next season, and in 25 he could be somewhere else. But if he somehow gets out of this contract, I believe Aprilia is a very good spot for him because Aprilia is a small factory. They could offer him a factory seat if either Aleix Espargaro retires or Maverick Vinales gets booted. And I think he will add a lot of value for Aprilia because of the money thing. They will get a lot of sponsorships. They will get a lot of attention. And Aprilia is a very small factory. They could use this money. And I don't think he will go to Yamaha. Why would he? It's the same situation as Honda.
Yeah.
Why would he do this? I don't think he will go to KTM because I think it's even worse. And Honda, for him, Honda is still a very good spot because don't forget he was more or less out for 3 years. And Honda is in a situation where they are developing without a rider who tells them in which direction to develop. So I think if Honda and Mark Marquez work together over the next 2 years, 23, 24, I think they will make some serious progress. Which brings me to one of my bold predictions, which is Mark Marquez will lead the championship at some point. And I think there's a very good possibility that we come back from the Americas round with Marc Marquez leading the championship. Let's say he has a okay-ish race in Portimao, and he wins in Argentina, he wins in Austin. I don't know why he wouldn't lead the championship. Or if there's a scenario where he wins his usual races like Germany or whatever, and they will be, in my opinion, a point in the championship where Marc Marquez will lead. I think the most probable time frame would be after Argentina. But yeah, do you have your phone on loud?
No, it's actually just my laptop. Something keeps
Oh,
coming
okay.
up, but it's all right.
Yeah, block them. Okay, so yeah, my next bold prediction is that Joan Mir will win a podium. Will score a podium, not will win a podium, because you win races and not podiums. But yeah, Joan Mir, I believe, will adapt to the Honda in a good way. Um, his crew chief said that he thinks he will do good on a Honda. And yeah, we discussed this as well on the Sepang test review with Jack Gorse, that Joan Mir has a very aggressive style and it could work with the Honda pretty well. So I think there's a scenario a little bit like Paul Espargaro did in Misano in 2021, where he could score a podium. And yeah, I think that Joan Mir will be better than AI believed, and B, a lot of people believe.
Yeah, I think those are good predictions. As for Mark leading the championship at one point, I am very skeptical of that. Just because of Bagnaia and Bastianini, if it isn't one of them, it will be the other. That's just my opinion. Joan Mir scoring a podium, I can see. Again, Joan Mir, like you very famously said last year, if he wasn't a rider, he'd be an insurance salesman, and he takes that approach to his riding. It is boring, but it is meticulous and it is stable. And I think if he's stable enough, he will end up scoring a podium, maybe Catalonia, somewhere like that. I can see that happening. Paul being better than Jack, I also agree with. I mean, at the end of the day, Paul knows KTM. He was there for a while, and he got the bike to the very edge of its first win, where he was robbed by Miguel Oliveira, of all people. So I agree with your predictions. The Mark one, I would have my concerns about, but the other two I can see happening.
Yeah, you kind of spoiled the last one. I wanted to give you an opportunity to respond to Mark and John, since we are in this Repsol Honda bubble. But yeah, you took away my last one, which is that I believe Paul Espargaro will be significantly better than Jack Miller. For the reasons I laid out, I don't think that Jack Miller will have a very good season. I mean, I think it will be better than Joan Zarco's KTM season, but not a lot. And I think that Paul Espargaro is getting full factory support. And even though Tech 3 is a little bit of a mess, it's not Tech 3 anymore, it's GasGas, so everything will be different. And yeah, I think he can do. I don't know if he will score a podium, but if the KTM has a good day and if Paul has a good day, he can finish in the top five. And I think that he will make the thing work a lot faster than Jack Miller.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a very sensible way of looking at it, and I'm inclined to agree with you.
Okay, so I have a little bit of an announcement. We discussed this previously. Because of the sprint races, we usually do our race reviews on like on Sunday or Monday, and if shit is hitting the fan, even on Tuesday. But yeah, with the superbike race weekends, I kind of figured out that it's difficult, at least for me personally, to have multiple races to discuss after another race happened. For example, if there's race one on Saturday and then the Super Bowl race and then race two, it's difficult after race two to really discuss everything that happened in race one because it kind of gets overwritten by race two and the Super Bowl race. And therefore, we had the idea of doing sprint race reviews on Instagram Live. It should be fairly easy to just hop on Instagram Live, talk shit about the riders, and then put the phone away. So yeah, this is like a bit of an experiment there, and I'm looking forward to it, and I hope we can do this regularly. But yeah, the race reviews will stay the same. And on Saturday evening, we will do a little bit of a sprint race review. I don't know, maybe 15 minutes or whatever. And talk a little bit on IG Live. And I would encourage everybody to hop on and ask questions or do whatever you want in the comment section. And yeah, we will treat this a little bit of an experiment if this works in a good way. And yeah, if it does, then we will continue it. And if not, then we will just ignore the sprint races or whatever. I don't know, but I'm very excited to try it, and I'm really looking forward to the first race in Portimao now. The weekend will be a little bit of a pain in the ass because actually we are a little bit busy, my girlfriend and I, because she has some stuff going on, and yeah, I'm helping her and watching MotoGP. So yeah, it's gonna be difficult, but yeah, I'm hoping that I will catch all the races live, and yeah, I'm very excited to do the sprint race reviews on IG Live with you.
Yeah, same. I gotta say, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very excited about this. We are branching out. No longer is it just YouTube. We are coming to Instagram and probably a whole host of other places as well. We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna get it together. But I'm very excited about this. Dorna put obstacles in our way. They still can't stop us. We're like Andrew Tate in the Matrix, MotoGP Aikido. That's what we do. They put in sprint races. We make it work. They put in obscene start times. We still make it work. And I'm really excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. And like you said, you touched on a great point. It'll be great to interact with all of you as well. If you have questions, if you have thoughts about the races, if you have things you want us to discuss, or you just want to hear us shit on your favorite or your least favorite rider, we are here to serve that purpose. You got questions, comments, all that kind of stuff. We will discuss it. We will debate it in an intelligent and non intelligent manner. And I'm really excited about this. I think it could actually be great for the podcast. I know a lot of you guys, you're all very great at, sort of responding and getting involved with our content, which I'm sure we both really, really appreciate. And it'll be great to be more interactive as well. I like answering people's questions, people's comments, people's opinions. And if we have those in front of us, we can work on them while we're talking about the races. So very excited, looking forward to trying it out this weekend from Portugal, Portimao. I'm very excited.
Yeah, and I learned that on Sunday, from the night from Saturday to Sunday, that in Europe the times will change to summertime. So please, please set your clocks and therefore don't miss the race. What's worse than tuning in an hour earlier or an hour later? I don't know. But yeah, missing the race or whatever, fucking up your plans, it would be a shame. So therefore, I really hope that we have a great weekend, that we can discuss all of this stuff. And I treat it a little bit like the BadMotoGP-Show we did or we started last year, where we just trying things out. We went from Zoom and we have better microphones now, better camera, and a new platform. So improving bit by bit, and yeah, trying to get a hold of this Instagram Live thing. Maybe someday we will have a better solution, but this is like getting our feet wet a little bit. So I'm very excited. And I would like to ask you, what are your predictions for the Portimao GP? Real quick, who's going to finish on the podium?
Ooh, good question. So to kick off the season in MotoGP, my podium for Portimao, my Portimao Portuguese podium, Bit of alliteration there for the ladies and gentlemen watching the show. I'm not sure what order it's going to be, but I think Pecco's going to be on the podium. I think Bastianini's going to be on the podium. And I think Quartararo's going to be on the podium. I think it's going to be a Ducati Yamaha hybrid. A Jacamaha.
I think that Pecco will win. I think Fabio will finish second. And I think that Alex Marquez, who is good around Portimao, will finish third.
Nice. That's a good
So
pick. I like that.
this is my pick because the testing it sets him up perfectly to be better than he actually is on the new bike. Yeah. So I'm very excited. Thank you very much for joining me, Keelan. Thank you everybody for watching, and we will see each other hopefully after the sprint race on Instagram, and then again doing the show. I believe we will do it on Monday. So goodbye, take care. Thank you very much.